talking a little bit about the need that we see here in Bartlesville and Washington County, and I feel like I
became homeless with the family breakup.
Everything was going okay in my life, it seemed one day, and all of a sudden, they stopped going okay.
The reason we're in here is because I lost my job.
I don't see the...
Eventually I got evicted.
know technology.
Okay.
Just
We can do that.
I go back here to beginning down here.
okay, and push that.
Yeah, so when you're ready to play,
Okay, right there.
okay?
All right, great. Well, I when you say you feel like you're preaching to the choir, I know that probably all of you get calls from individuals and families that are in a real crisis because they need a place to stay or they need help with a motel or something like that. And how I became involved in looking at community needs, we actually mobilized a grassroots effort of community citizens and partners, businesses, those types of folks, to come together to look at strengthening the public health infrastructure in our community. And we did several big needs assessments. We surveyed citizens. We did focus groups, and we also, partnered with the Bartlesville Regional United Way to look at their community profile study. And needless to say, in all of that, one of the big concerns that citizens actually voiced was a problem with affordable housing. And so we mobilized a group called the Washington County Affordable Housing Coalition, and we began to look and study and look at the need in our community. And I know some of you may be surprised, some of you may not be surprised, but we do have a very large number of people that on any given day don't have a place to stay. I get calls every week. In my position, I volunteer with Vision Onward, which is a transitional housing program, and we take the applications for that program, so our name gets out there and we get calls a lot from people wanting a place to stay. We get referrals from the Agape Mission, from the Lighthouse Outreach Mission, and that sort of thing. Bartlesville, the city of Bartlesville, put together a task force in 2008, and they were looking at studying the housing market here and looking at the fair market value. And what they discovered in some of their work is that there are certain occupational employee groups that can't afford to buy or rent a place in Bartlesville. So you can imagine the kind of trouble that creates. We also know that we have some low-income housing units, but again, when you look at what we have available, we have a very big shortage of subsidy housing units. And when I'm talking about subsidy housing units, I'm talking about those for low income, those for seniors, those who are mentally challenged, so such as Torrey Place, the Willows, Brookhaven, those kinds of things. And so part of what we're doing is trying to look at a really holistic community revitalization approach, so that we not only look at housing needs, but we look at transportation, health, workforce development. Does that sort of all, it makes sense whenever you're doing that community. So we know that you probably heard this statistic with the Bartlesville Public Schools. They have a homeless coordinator, and they have a count of students that report who don't have a home. And sometimes they're doubled up, or we have one family that they're 3 adults and 8 children living in a tiny little apartment in Brookhaven. So one of the things we just wanted to let you know that we do believe there's a big need for housing, and Family Promise is one program that helps us begin to fill in the gaps in a comprehensive overall plan to help get people stabilized and into a stable housing situation. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes.
Do you remember the number of students that are identified in Bartlesville Public Schools?
Last year it was 460. And
something like that.
The last count for this year was I haven't got it.
It was up around 300.
300. Yeah. And that's just Bartlesville. That doesn't include Dewey, Capan, Vera, Ramona, Oshaleta. Okay. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the need that's here in Bartlesville and Washington County.
So, and I was shocked to hear that there were by the latest count, between 300 and 400 children in Bartlesville who are classified as homeless and don't have a regular place to go lay their head, a permanent place. They're either they're not out on the street necessarily, but they're
Although some are.
shuffled around between perhaps extended family or friends or back and forth into different.
I just want to say, sometimes too, you'll see the tents, especially if you're doing run the streets and you're running around. When the weather gets warmer, you'll see a lot of tents down by the Caney River.
So I'm just a brief video, hopefully will reinforce and say this maybe better than I do, but brief description of IHN, Interfaith Hospitality Network, is one of the programs in Family Promise. Has 5 components. Host congregations is the first one. Volunteers, social service agencies, that's number 3. A day center, and finally transportation. And we're trying to put all those together now. This has just started in Bartlesville. Host congregations are about 4 or 5 times a year, 1 week at a time. A host congregation provides overnight lodging, meals, supper, breakfast, and brown bag lunch, and hospitality. I'm not sure the brown bag lunch is done in all of them, but
That's for when they go to the day center during the day.
okay. Volunteers are the heart of the affiliate. Without them, it cannot exist. Volunteers provide a variety of services: cooking and serving meals, playing with children, helping them with homework, and a couple of volunteers in the host church stay overnight with the families. There's 12 or 14 families that are in the program at any one time. The success rate is really high, 75 to 80%. They get them out within 60 days into a job or a permanent place to live and so on. So they're screened. They don't take people who are just going to play the system. They take people who are motivated to change their situation. Social service agencies help screen the guests, refer families, may also help guests find housing, jobs, government entitlements. The day center, we visited Lawrence, an affiliate, a couple, 3 weeks ago. They had a house downtown, a 3-story old house that a local black congregation had given to them for $1 a year, I think, was the charge for it. And they had renovated that house, and that's where the showers that's where they look for jobs. That's where they are during the day. So a host church doesn't have to have showers. That happens at the day center, and that's part of the program that will be set up in Bartlesville. And finally, transportation. You have to transport. A lot of these people don't have transportation from the day center to the church and back and so on. So that's the 5 components.
And you might just mention about the supporting congregation too, because that.
Say it louder, because I'm not going to repeat what you're saying.
I think this is really important for some of you, like especially Terry, you know your church is in a big transition. And there's what's called, another really important component is called the support congregation. And it might just be a small group of 5 or a Bible study that wants to be involved, but the church can't commit to actually hosting, a week. So those groups can plug in to a church that's hosting because there's slots. And it's very well done, very well organized. And so I think that's a really important component because many times there's probably more supporting congregations than the 13 host congregations. So it makes it all workable, and it's not so overwhelming.
How does it help? Well, it helps. One thing it does, it helps the participating churches. It gives the churches a way to help this serve the families in this way, to unite hearts and hands to provide shelter, meals, compassionate assistance for these homeless families. And I almost believe, as I've read about this, seen here and visited in Lawrence, the gift is greater to the churches that are supporting this, or as great as it is to the families that need the help. And I think I said this, but more than 75% of the families who participate find a permanent or transitional housing jobs or inter-job training programs. So it's a high success rate. There are 182 affiliates in 41 states. 53 are developing, maybe 54 if they don't have Bartlesville in that count, I don't know. 130,000 volunteers across the nation, 5,000 religious communities, churches involved in the United States. In Bartlesville, now we've got a list, some of you have been contacted, of 30 or 35 we've contacted already. 3 or 4 are moving toward becoming committed to become a host congregation. 2 or 3 more, I'm sure, will become support congregations. And we just started recruiting. We expect to have our 13 host congregations signed up within 6 months.
Right. So get it while you
Give or
can.
take.
That's what you're saying.
So that's sort of a brief introduction. This video is helpful. I've seen it a couple, 3 times, and I look forward to it. Now, I think he
Just
said
hit
this.
click.
Click that.
Yeah, get back on the, there you
I
go.
got it. Play. Again.
No, yeah, that.
I'm trying. I'm nervous for some reason.
I have another obligation that I have to go to, but these folks have all been involved too, and they'll be able to answer questions. And then feel free to contact me if I can help you in any additional way. Trust me, we've looked at all kinds of space. It's so amazing.
So I do not know why this is not starting.
Get one of the teenagers to help. That's what I do at my house.
One of the teenagers or anybody.
Radio Shack man.
You had this going. You had this going a
I
second
went to
ago.
sleep on them. Oh, looks like you got it back.
Something's happening over here.
Madison, I think you did something with the video at the top of the screen. When you got it to work.
Say again.
You did something with the video tab at the top of the.
I was just kidding. I was just kidding. I want to know how to. Oh, stop.
Wonder where that guy is that was here.
See if he's out there.
Do you think?